I'm fantasy and sci-fi author Dan Kenner, and here are the reasons why I decided to publish independently rather than go through a traditional publisher. I want to begin this explanation by first saying how you publish doesn't necessarily matter. There's a lot of authors out there that look at both independent and traditional publishing and they decide that for them, perhaps traditional publishing is the right way. Other people look at it and decide that independent publishing is the right way. At the end of the day, good books are good books and it doesn't really matter how they're published. So I want to start off with that. So for me, when I decided to publish, that was a completely different story from writing the book. Writing a story is one thing, and that for me isn't even that difficult. I can write a story relatively quickly. Editing, a little bit more challenging. When I got to the publishing phase, I admittedly did not know what I wanted to do. So naturally, as an author, the first thing that you do is start searching for and querying agents in order to get a publisher. That is when I realized that it was the crux of the decision. It was when I needed to decide if independent publishing or traditional publishing was the right route for me. These are the specific reasons why I decided to go with indie instead of traditional. First off, if you're aware of the process of trying to find an agent, there is long months often of querying agents. You're sending letters, you're sending manuscript, you're sending pitches for yourself and for your book, and it can often be long and grueling. I have talked to many authors who have queried hundreds of agents before they finally found one that was interested in their book. Some people love that process. And, there's a lot of people that find joy in querying. They can handle the rejection for one, but for them, the process of finding that agent is worth it because they want that validation. They want the extra validation and assurance that their book is worth publishing. And so they go out of their way to find the right agent for them. I think that's amazing if you've got the patience for that, if you've got the grit, the drive, the diligence. For me, there's two reasons why I decided that querying was not for me. One, I'm a really busy person. I don't have time to query agents. I don't have time to put together a fancy letter, make it perfect, and send it to tons of agents. And then two, I'm not great at handling rejection. I know that about myself. I've always been that way, and I know I don't want to deal with agent rejection because it's just inevitable. There's no way that you're going to find an agent very quickly, unless, it's like a family relationship type situation. That happens sometimes. I queried exactly 2 agents. I didn't get rejections. They came back saying they weren't accepting new submissions, contrary to their websites. Wasn't a big deal, but that's when I realized this isn't worth my time. Instead, I decided I can get my work in front of people now if I publish independently rather than trying to find an agent. And sure enough, I started publishing 3 years ago, and I have published 5 books now. I've written a full manuscript, really long manuscript, and I'm working on another set of trilogies and series. So for me, the time to query was definitely not worth it. Reason number 2, and this is time to publish. I touched on that briefly, but I was referring mainly to the querying process. Didn't even talk about the time to publish post finding an agent. That is a completely different story. If you're expecting to publish traditionally and get your book out there very quickly, then you will be disappointed. No, this is not a knock on traditional publishing. They've got a lot of work to do. They've got a lot of authors to work with. These publishers do a lot of the work for you. All right, they find the editor, they help you with the cover art, they arrange for all of these things, but unfortunately their time to publish is often 6 months to sometimes upwards of 3 years. So that's just something to be aware of. If you're not in any hurry to get your creative work in front of someone, then perhaps traditionally publishing is for you. For me, I have boundless stories. I've got limitless stories in my brain, and I knew I needed to get them before my readers as soon as possible. Satisfaction for me as well as satisfaction for my readers. As I mentioned, in the last 3 years, I've managed to publish 5 books. I'm confident that even if I had a publisher that had agreed to sign on all of my books, which doesn't happen, normally publishers sign you for a book or a single series. If you branch out of that, you have to sign another contract. Even if that was the case, I don't believe that I would have been able to actually publish 5 books in the past 3 years. For me, that's worth it, being able to get my books to my readers in a timely fashion. So that was reason number 2. Reason number 3, and this one is a little bit harder to really describe, but for me it's the creative control, complete creative control over my IP. In this case, the content that I write for my books, the characters, the names, the settings, everything that I create is my own, and I can do with it whatever I want. Now, that is, for some people, not a huge deal, right? They don't feel uncomfortable signing contracts that give the rights to their work to a publisher for X number of years. I mean, contracts all look different. It could be for 70 years, it could be for a lifetime, it could be, there's all sorts of things. I'm not a lawyer and I don't look into contracts, but one thing I knew for sure is I wanted the ability to write what I want the way I want it and have complete control over that. There's a lot of market pressures when it comes to books. Millions of books out there, and you have the pressure as an author to reach an audience. So obviously competition is there, and that's something that publishers are looking for. I mean, if for them, they're investing in your book. They want to ensure that your book is going to sell. So oftentimes they put pressure on you as an author to write certain things. Not always. Not every publisher is the same. I have just heard many stories of authors saying they were pressured to write certain tropes, content. Even if it made them uncomfortable, you still are at liberty to say no. So you do have control in that. But some authors felt that pressure was stressful. They didn't like it. They didn't appreciate that they were receiving this pressure. And it has happened that publishers drop books because it's not what they want it to be. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's pretty devastating. I know of an author friend recently who it happened to. They were writing content that was from their heart. It was their work. It was their passion. And their publisher ended up dropping the contract halfway through. The legality of that is a completely different problem. But for me, the creative control, it's important to me. That being said, I can't go through this session or this video and not highlight some of the challenges with indie publishing, okay? First off, it's expensive. I'm not going to lie to you. There are often cheap and free ways to produce your work and still get it before audiences, but there's a danger in that. There's a level of professionalism that's required for you to sell your books and reach the audience in the right way. You will need to spend some money on cover artists, editors, and other various important pieces, marketing as well. And it can be challenging. I've spent a lot of money on publishing because there's no one there to help me with that. Through traditional publishing, oftentimes it's no cost to the author. If you're being offered to pay $5,000 to a publisher to publish your book, do not do it. That is a vanity publisher. I can create a whole new video about that. When you're publishing traditionally, you will not be paying anything. They will take care of the costs. That's the way it should be. If that is the route for you, great. If you can afford to do it independently, then that's great as well. For me, I was not prepared for the costs of independent publishing, and yet here we are, I'm invested. Lastly, marketing. I can say with definity that traditional publishers or publishers don't do all of the marketing for you. I have heard many authors who have gone the traditional route who say they still are in charge or they need to focus on marketing as much as an independent author because the publisher doesn't just do everything. There is that kind of idea that they do. Unfortunately, that is not the case. If you publish traditionally or independently, marketing is very, very important, and a lot of it is on you. So don't go into a traditional publishing deal expecting that you will get all the marketing done for you and you won't have to do anything. You will be footing a lot of that work either way. Just remember, whatever you decide, getting your work out there is the most important piece. Keep writing, find the right way, and whatever you do, it'll work for you.